I've got less than 3 days to find these giants. These rising temperatures were starting to make me a little nervous. We have a standoff going now. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. And he's trying to figure out his next move. There's 3 or 4 fish in here just fighting over this one bait. Oh yeah, look at the length of that fish. Wow. Oh yeah, that's a giant. Oh.
The Fishin' Canada Show, brought to you in part by Sail, the Outdoors Superstore, Coleman, the Outdoor Company, Muskol, proudly Canadian since 1951, Cooper Tires, life's a road trip, come on, let's go, and Princecraft Boats, dominate the waters.
A successful day of fishing means different things to different anglers. Just getting out on a boat is success enough for some, and catching a fish is just a wonderful bonus, while others consider success a pail of panfish. And then there are those of us who consider success nothing less than the biggest, baddest fish we can find. Case in point, Northern Pike.
Wow, what a fishery!
Place in point, Lake Athabasca, world renowned for the biggest lake trout ever caught at 102 pounds and some of the largest northerns ever seen.
Oh, you rotten!
The flight to Lake Athabasca revealed a landscape I've never seen in Canada, or maybe in this hemisphere. We'll talk a little more about this fascinating part of the trip in the Gettin' There segment later on in the show. After landing at the private airstrip at Lakers Unlimited, we went over the maps with Captain Bruce, owner of the lodge and guide extraordinaire. We settled on Grouse Bay on Grouse Island, 6 miles to the south. It's a known spawning bay and a big one, nearly 2 kilometers long and almost 1 kilometer wide. This looked like a good choice. A narrow mouth and a large shallow back bay with lots of cover in the 2 to 3 meter depth range. But I had a feeling that despite a perfect location, knowledge of temperature fluctuations in this lake-like bay was going to be critical. Ice out was less than a week ago, and temperatures, along with my chances of going home empty-handed, were on the rise. Visiting places like this gives us an opportunity to immerse ourselves in some of the most pristine wilderness surroundings on Earth. But just as rewarding is meeting the eclectic group of characters that are often drawn to these remote camps. Case in point, this retired virtuoso. Bravo! I got a feeling we'll see more of this character as the show unfolds. On my first morning out, as I came around the northeast tip of Grouse Island, I started taking temperature readings of the open water. They were in the low to mid-50s. I decided to check this area out by using a big attractor bait, a 7-inch Waterwolf gator tube. I made the usual casts along the shoreline approaching the mouth of the bay, and I hooked a couple of medium-sized pike, but there was no concentration of fish, at least that I could see.
That would be a big fish in most bodies of water, or at least a decent fish, but in Athabasca, nah.
The mouth of this bay was a keyhole compared to the vastness of the water on the other side. It was maybe 100 meters long and 50 to 100 meters wide, and super shallow, less than a meter, with a sandy bottom. I took the temperature at the start of the channel, and it was about 58 degrees. As I moved through it, the temperature rose another 2 degrees, and I could see small fish fleeing from the bay. These rising temperatures and migrating fish were starting to make me a little nervous. I knew that once the ice was gone, the dynamics of the relationship between predator, prey, and sunlight could change hourly. The one variable I do have going for me is that the predators are pike, and they're a wild and crazy kind of fish. So anything's possible. As long as there's bait in the shallows, they'll be there until they can't stand the heat. And then, and only then, will they get out of the kitchen. But the big ones will stay to the end, and that's what I'm counting on. I've got less than 3 days to find these giants. I started exploring by going first to the most obvious places, the shallows at the end of the bay, where I found no fish. No big surprise though, because the water temperature was approaching mid-60s and rising steadily. Only 6 days ago, at ice out, this water would have been 35 to 40 degrees, a 25-degree difference from then to now.
All right, baby. God, you are one beautiful looking monster though, aren't you?
This was incentive enough to find these giants quickly.
That's a heavy fish. That is beautiful. Let me get it back in there.
Pike will seek cooler water when it hits 68 degrees, but in the meantime, they should be here. Although they're the apex predator, they're not big on work. So it's much easier for them to hunt in shallow water where there's less volume. It's kind of like having a captive audience right in your strike zone. If they weren't so temperature sensitive, they'd be here year round. It's much more difficult predating in a big body of water the size of Athabasca. They're going to stay here and gorge as much as they can for as long as they can, hopefully with my bait in the mix.
And this guy has got to be looking over his shoulders every minute of his life in this big bay back here, because he could be food, believe it or not.
On the second day, the water temperature was up another degree or two just outside the channel. And as I moved through, I could see more and more fish migrating out, including small pike. Who knows what had happened during the night? One thing I did know, I had to find these fish, and fast. I even switched baits to something more lifelike, a weighted castaic round-tailed swim bait, 6 inches long.
Boy, he hit me hard. He hit me like a big fish. Like a big fish should have. Come on, babe. He wants to do the big gator run, but he can't. He's not quite big enough to do it. There he goes. There he goes. He's trying. That's going to be a big fish someday. Whoa. You done? All right.
This bait has great action, and it paid off with a couple of more fish. But they weren't big enough, and there certainly weren't enough of them to qualify for what I was looking for, the biggest and baddest. I did find some spots that were deeper and probably cooler, but there was no cover, so they weren't working. These big boys are apex ambush predators. They know that where there's good cover, there's prey. And in a bay this size, it could be one tiny little area where it's a little cooler and maybe a little greener, and bingo.
Anybody who doesn't like pike fishing, I'm telling you, they haven't been pike fishing. Whoa, not quite yet. And you're hitting these great big swim baits, which is really nice about this too. I love throwing these things. You know, if you want to up your chances on big fish, I know you've heard it a million times, but boy, nowhere is it truer than early in the year for these big northerns. Now, I know, and we have done it ourselves, I know sometimes the tendency is to go smaller as opposed to bigger. When things are really tough and the fish aren't biting and they're you can see them there, but they're just not chasing anything, then a smaller bait will do. But on days like this, when they are chowing down on everything, I mean, it's not big, but they are a blast. And this guy has got to be looking over his shoulders every minute of his life in this big bay back here, because he could be food, believe it or not. Oh, he hit me right at the boat coming up. Oh, there he is. Oh, that's a nice. Oh. Come on, baby. Where's my bait? Oh, there it is. Okay. Come in. Away from the boat. See, it's just in that lip on that far side. So hopefully this won't be as difficult. I'm ready. He's not ready. I'm ready. I'm good to go. There's a testament to having a leader. Look where that leader is going into his mouth. That's just an awful set of teeth right back there. No leader, that fish would have been gone. And now he's got it through his mouth, out the other side. Look at that yap. No wonder they call him the wolf, the water wolf. Look at that thing. Roof, roof. Baby. Well, you want to switch positions here or what? That was good. Never had one do that to me before. See ya. That was good. He was almost in the boat.
Forgive me, Delilah, I just couldn't take anymore.
Look at this pike.
By day 3, I've just about given up. The third sunny day in a row and water temperature soaring. At this point, I was about 100 meters from the exit channel, and there's more and more fish moving towards it. But as I moved into some weedy areas, I started to see some bigger pike.
That is an Athabasca gator. I don't even think he knows he's hooked. He's gonna run here in a minute. Oh, he's still, I know he's nowhere near ready. That fish has got to be in his mid 40s, maybe even upper 40s. Come on, that's it. Come on around. Yeah, not yet. Oh my God, that's huge. Is that a beautiful fish? Oh. Oh man, that is gorgeous. That is outstanding.
I quickly caught some medium to large fish and then realized I had found the mother lode. In this whole bay, which I covered very methodically, here was this one wee bed, maybe 20 feet across, 5 or 6 feet deep, that was loaded with giant northerns.
Now it's about a 44-inch fish. Can you imagine a 50-plus fish, 54, which I believe was the camp record up here? That'd be huge, massive.
Today's hotspot is an amazing northern pike area on Lake Athabasca. The waypoint on your screen will put you right on it. This is a major spawning bay where the fish funnel into just before or as the ice is leaving. As the water warms, the pike gradually move towards the emerging weed beds in the center of the bay. Try using spinners, spoons, or swim baits like I'm using today. For more hotspots like this one, check out fishincanada.com. I switched to a slightly larger 7-inch big hammer square tail and had at them. They were fighting for the bait. And let me tell you, when you look into the water and not 6 feet away, there's a pack, and that's the only way to describe them, a 5 or 6 45-inch plus fish looking back at you. It's very intimidating and makes me glad I'm not on their menu.
Oh, look at that one beside him. There's 3 or 4 fish in here just fighting over this one bait. That was crazy. Oh, that's a big heavy fish. That is a beauty. That fish has got to be pushing 45, I would think. That is fantastic. Okay. Oh, off he goes. A successful release.
Just to validate my planning and reasoning, I took the water temperature approximately the same depth that I found the fish, and it was just coming up on 68 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius. This was their last stand before the heat finally drove them out of the buffet and into the deep, dark depths of Athabasca.
That is a giant.
My theory that the biggest fish would stay regardless of temperature, to a certain degree, pardon the pun, was correct.
Did he ever smack that right under the boat? I don't think he's acting like he's tired, but I don't think he's done yet. Nowhere near. We have a standoff going now. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. And he's trying to figure out his next move.
Northern pike are what they are. Opportunistic, basically lazy, ambush predators that happen to get really big, voracious, and cannibalistic. And knowing all that was my formula for success on this legendary body of water.
Gotcha. Just get that out. Wow, he just about broke my wrist. Athabasca style. Wow, they get big up in this lake. Whoa. Oh, there it goes. Whoa. Lake Athabasca, I got to tell you, you know, we always talk in the program about putting yourself in prime waters. Well, if you're after a trophy northern pike, there's very few lakes in this country like Lake Athabasca.
To get to today's unbelievable northern pike fishing, I first flew from Toronto to Fort McMurray, Alberta. From there, I caught a smaller plane that flew to the runway adjacent to Lakers Unlimited Lodge on Lake Athabasca in Saskatchewan. While flying across Athabasca Sand Dunes National Park, we came across this amazing vista. This park makes up the largest active sand dune region north of the 58th parallel. It's like a huge desert, but uniquely Canadian. Lakers Unlimited Lodge on Johnson Island was established in 1995 with a couple of walled tents, a single cabin, and an open fire for cooking. Today, it's evolved into a multi-building fishing destination with all the amenities that you could expect this far north.
On today's KLP, I want to talk a little bit about knowledge, the K portion of the formula. It's important to know how fish behave, especially temperatures, which is critical for today's program. I'm after giant northern pike. Now, this time of year, which is early in the season, the spring period, these fish generally use the back bays like the one that's behind me for two purposes. Number one, to spawn and reproduce, and number two, to recuperate after the spawn period from the long winter. As soon as they're done, temperatures start to raise into the high 50s, low 60s. They don't vacate the back bays at that point. All they do is drop out a little bit and try and make contact with the colder water that's coming in from the main lake and the warm water that's warming up in the back of the bay. And that generally means right at the mouth of these little entrances into these back bays is perfect for giant pike. Later on in the year, those big fish, once that temperature hits the high 60s, low 70s, they're gone. They're out of these places into the big open waters. But right now, this is perfect.
The Fishin' Canada Show, brought to you in part by Ram Trucks. Nothing works harder than a Ram. Stearns, trusted on the water since 1952. Mercury Outboards, #1 on the water. And Outdoor Canada, Canada's only national fishing and hunting magazine.